Look at China's development while we are digging tombs and mosques. This has become a common talking point of liberals and pseudo-secularists. Today, many of them have a problem when Hindus in India want to reclaim and assert their ancient civilizational identity and heritage. They point to other nations in Europe and Asia and ask that if those countries have never had to reclaim or assert their historical legacy, why should we Hindus do it? Let's take a look at why this is a misinformed statement and has no basis in reality. Let's look at how these 9 nations, after a prolonged period of colonization, have reclaimed their history as part of their national identity. This is the Mosque Cathedral of Cordoba in Spain. Although this is a Christian place of worship, the building has many architectural features of a mosque. Here's why. A church was originally built at the cathedral site in the 5th or 6th century CE. But after the Arab conquest of Spain, the church was demolished and a mosque was built in the 8th century CE, and many additions were done to the building in decades. However, by the year 1236 CE, the Christians of Spain were able to reconquer their lands from the Arabs. As part of the reconquista movement, the Spanish began wiping out all traces of Islamic rule in their lands. This included repurposing many mosques, most of which were churches to begin with, back into churches. This mosque cathedral of Cordoba thus reverted back into a Christian place of worship. The eventual unification of Spain under Ferdinand and Isabella in 1492 cemented the legacy of the Reconquista. With the fall of Granada, the last Muslim stronghold, the narrative of a restored Christian Spain was complete. This moment of unification and the narrative of the Reconquista, celebrating the restoration of Christian rule, became a central element in constructing a collective Spanish identity. Several Spanish literary works have mythologized the Reconquista, linking the modern Spanish state to its medieval past. Let's move on to Greece. After centuries of Ottoman rule and later periods of foreign influence, Greece has consistently worked to revive its ancient heritage and assert its place as the cradle of Western civilization. Restoration of archaeological monuments such as the Acropolis and other classical ruins are central to Greece's efforts to reconnect with its ancient past. Greece is also demanding the return of cultural artifacts housed in foreign museums like the Parthenon marbles in the UK to reclaim Greece's historical legacy. Greek nationalism also has the concept of the megali idea, the aspiration to re-establish a state encompassing the full breadth of ancient Greek rule. Even Ireland experienced a powerful cultural revival in the late 19th and early 20th centuries after several hundred years of British rule. This movement reinvigorated the Irish language, literature, music and folklore, laying the cultural groundwork that eventually bolstered the struggle for independence. Post-independence, government policies and community initiatives such as Irish medium education and the celebration of national festivals like St. Patrick's Day have continued to reinforce and nurture Irish national heritage. As the Nazi occupation of France ended with the Allied victory in World War II, France undertook a process to reclaim its national identity. In the immediate post-war years, France purged its political and cultural institutions of Nazi influence. Public debates and literary works stressed the values of the French Republic, reinforcing a narrative of resistance and renewal. The French resistance, which had operated secretly during the war, became central to the new national myth. Museums, memorials, and national commemorations were established to honor its heroes, thereby helping to recast modern France as a nation defined by its fight for democratic ideals and against tyranny. The post-war period saw a revival of French cultural production through film, literature, and art that reasserted the country's intellectual and artistic heritage. This cultural renaissance was instrumental in distancing the nation from its past and in promoting a renewed, self-assured French identity. Even China overcame similar struggles. Statues of Chinese historical figures who betrayed their country by helping foreign invaders are built as a reminder to the people. The public ritually slaps the statues and vilifies them. For instance, statues of the 11th century Chinese politician Qin Hui and his wife were built for this purpose first in 1475 and then have been replaced each time the statues got damaged. Furthermore, following what the Chinese call the century of humiliation, which was marked by repeated invasions, unequal treaties, and foreign concessions, China has pursued a vigorous cultural and political rejuvenation. Major restoration projects have been launched to repair and showcase historical sites such as the Forbidden City and parts of the Great Wall. Government-sponsored festivals, promotion of Confucius institutes overseas, and the reinvigoration of classical literature and art are all part of the broader effort to reinforce a narrative of a continuous Chinese civilization. Mongolia has also worked to re-establish its unique nomadic identity and cultural traditions, which had been suppressed after decades of Soviet influence. Mongolia has increasingly promoted the traditional Mongolian vertical script as a symbol of its heritage, moving away from the Cyrillic alphabet imposed during Soviet times. National events like the Nadam Festival, celebrating traditional sports such as wrestling, horse racing, and archery, play a pivotal role in strengthening collective identity and reconnecting the population with centuries-old customs. Efforts to revive pastoral lifestyles and traditional music also help emphasize Mongolia's deep connection to its vast landscapes and nomadic history. Under Dutch colonial rule for over 300 years, Indonesia was subject to cultural and political suppression. With independence in 1945, the nation undertook a bold project to forge a unified national identity among its thousands of ethnic groups. One of the key steps was the adoption of Bahasa Indonesia as the national language, a strategic decision that helped to bridge regional differences and foster a common identity. Alongside language standardization, Indonesia revived indigenous art forms, traditional music, and local customs in education and public life, contributing significantly to a cohesive post-colonial identity. Korea was occupied by Japan from 1910 to 1945. Under Japanese rule, Korea faced systematic efforts to erase its cultural and linguistic heritage. But after liberation, South Korea actively restored its national identity by purging Japanese influences from its education system and public institutions. This involved a revival of Hangul, that is the Korean alphabet, the reinvigoration of traditional Korean customs and festivals, and a conscious effort to celebrate the history of the ancient Korean dynasties. Although Japan was never colonized by European powers in the traditional sense, the country underwent a period of national rejuvenation in the 19th century. From the year 1868, under Emperor Meiji, Japan transformed from a fragmented feudal society into a centralized industrialized nation. Investments in railways, telegraph systems, modern factories, and shipyards modernized its economy and military. A new education system taught a unified curriculum that emphasized Japan's historical legacy alongside modern subjects. While importing Western technology, Japan also reinvigorated its cultural identity. These reforms enabled Japan to rapidly catch up with Western powers, eventually emerging as a major industrial and military force. Each of these cases shows that reclaiming national heritage involves more than just political independence or economic progress. It requires the revival and celebration of language, art, customs, and historical narratives that form the backbone of a nation's identity. And if India is to truly emerge as a rising power on the world stage, we must not shy away from reclaiming our ancient civilizational heritage as part of our national identity. We cannot heal the wounds of the past if we don't acknowledge the wounds in the first place. The Indian Republic has been a copy-paste version of the British Raj for decades. It's high time the Republic has its own identity and values that reflect its civilizational ethos. Only a self-confident people can strive for development. This is the way.